This is a most adventurous gathering today, really, because we have an author and a deeply passionate Polish-American woman with us. Her authoring started with books on Polish family traditions, as we have here the Country Cookbook, in which the author describes the tradition we're going to be speaking about today, particularly the preparation of the Easter basket. So I want to formally and most lovingly welcome Zosia Hodorowicz-Neab to our table to show us how your mother would prepare for Easter.
Thank you, Father, for inviting me and asking me to be part of this great celebration of the Holy Week traditions. I'm only too happy to talk to you and any viewers that might be looking on how to set up the traditional Easter basket for taking to church to be blessed on Holy Saturday. Well, let me start with the basket. Now, this is a basket that I inherited from my mom. I think she got it from someone one of the first years that we came here to America. I wanted to make sure that I had it and continue the tradition of keeping the Easter basket, usually a basket made out of some kind of wicker. I always felt that, you know, taking the basket to be blessed was like almost the highlight, the pre-highlight of Holy Week and of the day before Easter Sunday and the celebration of the resurrection of Christ. All of the hard work is coming to an end. And this is sort of like the part of the gem of
the flowering of that, all that hard work.
All the flowering of all of that. So my mother had this Easter basket, and you know, she and I spent a lot of time together during Holy Week. She always wanted to make a really good housewife and a homemaker out of me. So I was always there for most of the events that was happening regarding the traditions.
And the basket you're showing here is going to be basically how she would put the basket together.
Yes.
How she taught you.
Yes, how she taught me to put the basket together. And you know, I just want to say that there are a lot of different ways that you can put a basket together. But you know, essentially there are some basic things. And I have to say that my mother was a minimalist. It wasn't a fancy basket, because I've seen much fancier, and I did see much fancier as I was taking the basket to church to be blessed. But my mother always began with simple things. Like there are some people who will drape a nice cloth into the basket. My mom never did that.
Your mother did the bare essentials.
She did the bare essentials. And what she did was she had a półmiska, you know, an oval platter, little platter that always fit nicely into the bottom of the basket, okay? This isn't the original one, this is mine. I don't know what happened to her original one, but anyway. And the next thing that she would do would be place the meats around the edges of the platter. My mom and dad always made their own white Polish sausage, which always smelled divine on Good Friday.
Oh, sausage smells the best on Good Friday.
When we've been fasting and just dying for a piece of meat. You know, all of Holy Week was really fasting and, you know, getting prepared for the resurrection. And usually my mother bought some kind of smoked sausage. Those are the two traditional things that she would...
So the fresh sausage you made at home, the other sausage you bought.
Right, right. You know, and I know that there are a lot of people who make their own smoked sausage, which, you know, would be fabulous, but...
Every family has its own tradition.
Exactly.
Każda wieś ma swoją pieśń.
That's
Every
right.
village has
its own song.
Right.
Right. So once the sausage was in there, we would put in eggs. Now, you know, my mom would, sometimes she would color her eggs with onion skins, just plain onion skins. There was no decoration on them. Sometimes she would just buy brown eggs. I guess it all depended on what kind of time that she had.
And what was available?
And there was always at least 6 eggs. There were 6 of us at home, and so at least 6 blessed eggs.
So this preparation already looks forward to the sharing. It's not just gathering eggs together. You're going to be, how many people at home? That's how many.
Right. All of this is in preparation for things that we're going to eat Easter Sunday morning. So the basket is called święconka, and then the meal on Easter morning is also called święconka because you consume the foods that you've taken to church to be blessed.
And święconka basically means blessed food.
Yes. You know, I think for me, there are 2 things that are really important in the Easter basket. You know, the egg is actually the symbol of rebirth, new life, which is what happens, you know, on Easter Sunday, on the resurrection. So the symbolic meaning of the foods is also very important. And the meat, the pork, generally it's some kind of pork. The sausage was, you know, very huge in Poland. Pigs were relatively inexpensive to raise, and people would make their own sausage. Everything about the pig was consumed in some way. And the sausage generally represented some kind of prosperity, abundance.
Or something you would not eat on at least the Fridays of Lent, or not at all during Lent.
Well, you know, my mother always used to say they used to see meat when the high church bells rang. You know, on special holy days, they would see meat, and not very much after that.
Otherwise it was grain or breads or vegetables.
Right.
And that.
So it was really a special thing. And, you know, I could see my parents, you know, thrill and happiness that they were making their own sausage and it was going to be part of this meal.
Well, they really put themselves in the basket. You make the sausage, you are in that basket, almost like the chicken who put the little chick in the egg. So,
right. So those things, you know, are really important. The next thing that was on my mother's agenda was always bread. And you know, and I know, and I hope that our readers will know, or our viewers, that bread is just considered absolutely sacred in the Polish culture. And I can remember growing up and, you know, if we would drop a piece of bread on the floor by accident, we would have to pick it up, kiss it, you know, and in reverence for bread. And you know, we read and we hear, I am the bread of life. And that's why bread is included also in the święconka basket, taken to church to be blessed, usually with the sign of the cross on top.
And that cross and those words you so beautifully present remind us that this is gospel bread. And this bread will be shared in the home.
And nourish us. And in many ways, too, it is symbolic of the Holy Communion that we receive as the body of Christ.
It's one of the reasons, too, it's round, okay? Like the host is often round. And so the loaf is round, not oblong.
But round.
And then marked with the cross. Absolutely the cross spread.
Yes. So that was also very important, and you know, it was very revered in Poland, and so...
And this particular loaf, I think, is from a Polish bakery, which bakes them only for Easter time. In other words, they many times call them blessing breads, okay? And they're marked with the cross, and...
You can see that the basket the food inside is starting to shape itself into just this beautiful, lovely picture of sausages and eggs and bread.
In natural earth tones. It's all natural. It's all
beautiful.
Wholesome food.
It's all beautiful. The next thing that my mother would put inside the basket would be some butter. Now, you can put in just a stick of butter, which my mom did. But, you know, as you live and learn, you learn different things that appeal to you personally. It doesn't have to be exactly like Mama did it.
Correct.
Because you're an individual and you can do it your own particular way. But I've seen this done also. And I just think that this is a beautiful way to present butter also with the cross on it. And again,
what is the cross made of?
I used peppercorns, but you can also use cloves, whole cloves, depending on your particular preference. I've also read that you could use either juniper berries or allspice, but this is just, peppercorns. And I think that also adds, beauty to the basket. Salt. Salt is considered a cleansing agent. It also offers us enhancement in terms of taste and food. So salt, always shared, is included inside the basket. And, this is the way my mom did it. Just put a shaker of salt inside. Because salt and bread, these two things are traditional Polish greeting, either at weddings, when they're welcoming guests, or when a special guest or even regular guests are coming to the house. Very often, there's a platter with bread and salt.
There's a wonderful connection of how the basket is a symbol not just of the family gathering, but of hospitality to others.
Overall.
And bread and salt is the symbol of Polish hospitality.
Correct. Yeah. So she always included that. Then, to commemorate the bitterness of the crucifixion, and we include horseradish. Also, it's just a great accompaniment to the sausage.
Oh, an excellent flavor with sausage.
Right, and it says it helps you digest pork much better. As you can see, the basket is starting to fill up. There's lots of room for a lot of different things. Now, if you want to, you can make your own butter lamb, or you can purchase a butter lamb as well. This is one that I made, and I like to include
this butter lamb here in this case is a sign of Zosia's passion. She's not just an author, she's lived through it and received a lot from her mother. This tradition here, but here's her adaptation. Wonderful, Zosia.
Thank you very much. And now the last thing that my mother insisted on, and this is just a mustard jar, because that's what she
People
did.
used what they had.
Right. So this is one of my mustard jars, and this is something I do as well too, because it was something that my mother insisted on. This jar of water, and she'd always say, "Nie zapomnij, don't forget to open it when the priest comes by to bless." So when I was in church and the priest was coming by to bless, I always uncovered it and made sure that it was in the basket and that it would receive some of the holy water. Then I would cover it back up, and then I would bring it home.
So your mustard jar became a holy water jar.
It became holy water jar, and we always had holy water in the house. My mother kept that, and I'm going to tell you what she did with that when we're finished here.
Oh, wonderful.
Now, my mother loved pussy willows, but she never, and we had them in the house for Easter. There was always a big bouquet in the living room. She absolutely loved them. She used to send us out to the woods, early spring, idź szukajta, look for some pussy willows. And I can just remember that we used to come home, wet and dirty, and she would embrace those pussy willows to her. She would bring them to her, and it's only lately that I've been thinking that how she must have missed Poland, to send us out. This first sign of spring in Poland used to.
Which here, the kids, you guys, she kicked you out of the house to get out from under your feet.
But also for a purpose.
Okay, but then to bring something back.
But bring something back. So
you brought, in a certain way, spring to her.
Yes, spring in Poland, I think. And so, and now she didn't include it in the basket, but I do in memory of her. And those moments when we used to bring those pussy willows home to her after a day in the woods, looking all over and, you know, cutting them down and bringing them. And so my basket actually, you know, out of 6 or 7 things, many things can be store-bought. It doesn't have to be all homemade. You can, if you want the tradition, if you want to show your kids or your family how to do things. Like, you know, my mother taught us how to make the sausage, and she did teach me how to color the eggs with onion skins, and we didn't grind our own horseradish. We always, you know, bought something from the store. And so then it was ready, and it was covered. Now, while my mother was still alive, she kept this because it was something that I had done. I had embroidered this. It's a dresser scarf, and I had learned how to embroider. Another one of those housewifely things that I was supposed to know how to do. And we would cover it. It was something that was nice,
And as I recall, particularly in hearing people speaking of it and using, this was something which was generally only used or mostly used just for the basket on Easter.
Well, I'll have to tell you that ours was multi-purpose.
Oh, it was? Okay. Well, your mother always had an interesting twist on this.
She did. She was pretty much her own person.
Right.
For a long time, you know, this was on my dresser. And then, I don't know, I think after I left home, my mother took it off, washed it, and then when I would go and we would go to church to have things blessed together, she would use that. So you know, I'm sort of like my mom. It's like almost too good to use, you know. Mm-hmm. Goofy to say, but it's one of our nicer things. We didn't have a lot. You know, my parents immigrated to this country in 1954 with 4 kids and baggage, so there really wasn't a lot of lovely things. But, you know,
They brought the traditions with them.
Those were the lovely things, you know, that I remember. You know, and, you know, just a nice scarf, you know, something that you think is pretty. And here's another one. I think I have a picture here of my using. This was mine that I was using until my mom passed, and then I felt I could take the.
Could you show us that picture?
Yeah, I've got it right here. This is us in front of my house. It's the same basket that.
Covered with which scarf is that?
Now it's covered with this scarf.
Okay.
I'll tell you the truth that I only started using the other one until after my mother passed, you know. And so now I use this one. You know, when we're taught something like this by somebody that we love, a parent, these things become, I mean, gee, nowadays you can hardly sell anything like this. I mean, you find them at the flea markets and you find them. But you know what? This was something that was in my home, that my mother had her hand on it, just like the basket. And so when I put my hands on it, when I fill it with things that she taught me, then I feel I'm honoring her memory. I'm honoring our faith, the things that we've done for centuries as Poles and Polish Americans. So after the basket was blessed in church by the priest, I would come home, and the first thing my mother would ask me is, did I open the jar? Did the water get blessed? And I said yes. First thing she did, we'd put the basket down. She would take the water, open it, and then she'd say, "Chodź ze mną," come with me, okay? And we would start in the living room. And I'm sorry to this day that I didn't write down the exact words, but I found something that sounded very similar to it. But I know she started with dipping her hands in the holy water and going into the living room and sprinkling and saying, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, all of the walls, she said, say, Satan, there is no room for you here. This is the home of Peter and Paul and all of the saints. And, and I'm trailing behind her, right, watching her do these things. And in every room, she would do the same. In our bedrooms, in the sypialnia, every room was blessed on that Holy Saturday with the holy water. And then she would keep it. I don't know if she used it for other things. If she did, I wasn't, privy to it. But we always had holy water. And I've read in a lot of, Polish texts and doing research that anybody can bless something at any time. If they feel they want to bless their dog or, their barn or have holy water to put in the fountain, that used to be by the door all the time.
By the exit to the house entrance.
Yeah, to bless ourselves as we came in or as we came out. So we always had holy water.
And this, the jar itself is symbolic of the family-home connection. I mean, it's not something you have to go online and look for a special bottle or go to a special religious store and find.
No.
It's something that came directly from the home, like the foods you talked about here, the homemade sausage, the pussy willows from the forest or fields around the house. Everything came from the local environment and centered in the home. And in this case, so beautifully, like you said, brought the blessing home.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be really complicated. It has to come from the heart. You have to think about, what you're doing and how, I am the bread of life, how it nourishes us, this bread, physically, spiritually, how all of that feeds us and nourishes us, both in the spiritual sense and in the physical sense as well. So
that's one of the characteristics of our Polish family spirituality, is the fact through physical things we come to encounter God. Whether it's bringing the pussy willows home, whether it's making a butter lamb, or even just making a simple cross on the butter, or sprinkling the house. Through all these, through butter, through sausage, through crossbread, through water, through the pussy willow nature, we encounter God and His resurrection. And celebrate it as a family at home, because there's 6 eggs, remember, one for each of you there.
And each one would get a special egg on Easter Sunday morning after the Resurrection Mass. We usually began the święconka, the breakfast, with something hot. That's my mother's thing. We each would get a sliced egg in a bowl, and then she would pour hot beet soup, and we would start after prayer. I should say, on that Easter Sunday morning, I remember coming in with my father and my mother's bustling around, in the kitchen. And first thing my father would say, Chrystus zmartwychwstał. Christ has risen.
Risen indeed.
And risen indeed. Prawdziwie zmartwychwstał. And
that's how you greeted each other when you came back from church?
Yes.
Before breakfast?
Yes.
On Easter?
Yeah. It was just special, these small little traditions that we had that made the day unique and different, and very special.
As you said, they didn't bring a lot with them, just their baggage, their luggage.
4 kids.
And 4 kids, but they brought the richness of this
of their
practice.
To me, those traditions are, I don't know, they've influenced my entire life, of course. And still one of the most important, cherished aspects of my life is to do my Polish-American traditions.
The beautiful thing that you shared this with thousands of people in your writings. The writings on herbs, the writings on the kitchen and the garden, the writings on the Polish year, the writings on weddings, names, Polish names,
Father,
every aspect.
When you're passionate about something, you want to share it.
And you live it. You live it.
And I think people can understand that. And I hope that people will understand that it's not terribly complicated. It doesn't have to be a hard thing, but it's something that we have to think about and feel in connection with our ancestors. When we prepare this, when we do this, we bring all of our ancestors to this basket.
Basically do what always has been done on that day.
Right, they're with
Every
us.
single year for thousands of years.
They're there with us. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you, and thanks for blessing the rectory here today.
I'm happy to do so in my mother's name.
Much appreciated. Chrystus zmartwychwstał.
Prawdziwie zmartwychwstał.
Christ is risen.
He is indeed risen.